Welcome to Primetime Mitch, lovely people, and today we're going to be talking about The Long Walk, directed by Francis Lawrence. I have just come out of the theatre having watched it with my son. We both had a really positive experience. This is going to be a non-spoiler review, just chatting about certain aspects of the movie I really enjoyed, saying why it works, just first thoughts really. I will follow this up with a spoiler review somewhere in the very, very close future because I've got so much to say about this movie that I can't really say when restricted. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. First of all, this is one of the only movies recently that I've actually watched the trailer for. I'm tending to try and ignore them as best I can. I spoke to 𝐒𝐂𝐈𝐀𝐋𝐒 recently about this. They're showing so much that every movie tends to be ruined a little when I go in to see it. So this is one of the ones I did see a little bit of, but thankfully the trailer really doesn't give you that much, and therefore this experience was not tainted in any way. You can tell straight away with this film when it starts there's going to be a lot of emotion involved in it. It's actually quite jarring at the beginning when Judy Greer's character, the mother of Ray, is taking him to the long walk and she doesn't want him to do it. She's asking why and he's sort of trying to give his reasons and then she won't let him go, and it's kind of really sad to see already, and you get an idea of what sort of ride this is going to be. Pretty soon you start understanding that this movie is set in a similar way to The Purge, in a world where they try and tackle societal issues that have been created with over-the-top ridiculous methods and then try and pass it off to a nation as being what's good for them. Certainly if you want to go a bit further back, it's similar to 1984. You know, certain things are off limits. You do not talk about this. There are boundaries. You don't try and be uninhibited. No reading of these books, listening to this music, that kind of thing. I was getting that sort of feel that we are looking at that dystopian setting. So that was quite interesting. What I did like straight away was the immediate camaraderie between the characters, between the participants on the walk. It all felt very real. There was the nerves there. You could tell the nerves. There was a quiet confidence from some that they were going to be fit enough to endure this, but they also weren't obnoxious about it. I wasn't immediately hating people and going, oh, I can't wait for him to drop off or him to get his comeuppance or anything. I wasn't feeling like that, which is great. And that sort of continues throughout. There's no real complete asshole or a sadist in the middle of these guys. There is an obnoxious character in there that really is messed up in the head, and you can tell that that's what's creating that in him, but you're never really going, God, I want to see him go. God, I want rid of him. And that can really damage a movie sometimes if it's out of place. What they never do is stray from the real villains, which are the authorities that have organised all this and made this so necessary for the poor people of the nation, who are basically just prisoners now. They give freedom as a reason to try and win this competition, and you know, freedom shouldn't be something you have to break your back or destroy your body just to obtain. So there's a message there among many others. And that was a real strong point, because a lot of movies where it's every man for themselves, you do tend to get this aggression and this unpleasantness and this dark underbelly running through it. I don't like game shows nowadays and certain programs that pit people against one another in a hostile, conflicting way. You know, we've got things like Four in a Bed here and Come Dine With Me, which often provide moments of funny entertainment, but a lot of the time it's just putting people against one another and putting people in situations where they've got to have conflict, and I don't like that a lot of the time. This movie is absolutely throwing people into a situation where that would be possible, but the characters in it understand their situation and have empathy. Even the less likable ones, there's a reason why it's there, and there's so much character depth in this film. And I think with the togetherness and the support that these boys have for one another, you care more, and if you care more, you are on board the story and you're on board the journey, and you don't switch off at any point. It's all about being invested, and they invest you. The two leads in this movie, and bearing in mind they are the two leads, but there is a tremendous supporting cast which is just as strong and just as prevalent throughout. But the two leads, Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson, playing Ray and Pete, are absolutely outstanding. Probably some of the best performances I've seen in a long time. I think Cooper Hoffman's career will probably soar off the back of this. David Johnson, being a British actor, was so convincing and so powerful that you were just walking with him the whole way. It was very unflinching, very real. You get a lot of close-ups where you're in between the guys so that you're in there with them. There's not a whole lot of long shots because some of the scenery is, although a lot of it is bleak, there are some beautiful landscapes that they walk past. There's a huge array of waterfalls, there's some lovely countryside, there's a horses scene which is very symbolic. So there are a lot of things that you could look at around them, but it's not about the scenery. That is not significant to them, not relevant to them when they are enduring such pain, such anguish, and such distress, such physical distress, that none of that is really relevant. So they focus on the boys, and they're always in amongst them, either behind them or in front of them, and you feel every mile of that walk. And I think that's where Francis Lawrence has really outdone himself here, because he was obviously director of some real big hits. I Am Legend, a survival movie in itself, obviously Constantine, and then of course he did Hunger Games. Now, this again is another outlandish concept of a battle of the humans and spirit and will, much like Squid Game was. But again, this is so much less glamorous, fantastical. This is more stripped bare. This isn't a fantasy story. This is real and raw. The dialogue is fantastic, very realistic. It has its moments of humor in there, but that humor sort of starts falling away with the stress and the limits that these guys are being pushed to. And when the humor comes later on, it's sort of more strained and forced because they're trying to keep themselves happy. It's like the sort of whistling in the concentration camp thing. They are just trying to keep themselves from giving up and eventually dropping out of it in the worst way possible. So I really believed every word they were saying. I wanted to hear what every character had to say as well. I wanted to find out why they were doing this. What was the purpose? And even if you don't find out, even if people remain a mystery, they have had enough of an impact on the movies that it doesn't really feel like a loss. It's mad to me that this movie has been made now, and so many people over the years have attempted to try and take hold of it. I know George Romero actually had a possibility back in the late 80s of getting hold of this script. Frank Darabont, obviously Shawshank Redemption. I mean, this is a guy that probably could have done a great job on it, and a personal favourite of mine because of his involvement with Nightmare on Elm Street 3. But he also may have given us a similar gritty movie. But what Francis Lawrence has done here is create what I believe to be one of the best movies of the year. It could be one of the best movies in quite a lot longer than that. I'd like to watch it again. I probably am going to watch it again next week. I'm going with Amy to watch it because she was working yesterday when me and my son went to watch it. So I am happy to watch it a second time. Any gripes I had are minor. They're barely worth talking about. Obviously, I don't want to go into it because it will spoil it. There's a few things towards the latter part of the movie, towards the ending, where I was sort of, if that had been in, it would have been absolutely perfect. But it's not really that big a deal. When you see such quality and you go on such a journey that we went on this movie, those gripes are just gripes. They are not negative marks on the movie really at all. I thoroughly enjoyed this experience. That's not to say that the content is massively enjoyable. It is a very sad movie in parts, in many parts. It does tug on your heartstrings a little bit. There was a lot of emotion packed into this. The futility of it all is always lingering in the background, which creates a constant emotion throughout. And I would suggest that go there ready to be invested, emotionally invested. It's going to bring something out of you. I thought this was an excellent production, a very, very good movie, and one of the most positive experiences I've had in the theatre that I can say I've ever had. I've had a lot recently, but this one is definitely up there. So yeah, The Long Walk, I strongly recommend it. This, again, this is non-spoilers. I will go into detail on this movie a little bit further down the line when the dust settled and more people have been to see it, so that I don't accidentally spoil it for anybody. But thank you guys, that's my quick non-spoiler review of The Long Walk. Please go see it, please go support it. It is worth the hype. And if you dislike it for any reason, or you don't agree with what I've said, or you do agree with what I've said and you want to elaborate a little, that's what the comments is for. Drop those comments below, hit that like button and subscribe to get notified for more content from me in the future. But for me, Mitch Cassidy, this has been Primetime Mitch. Catch you later guys, stay safe.